What was the most valuable, if you could make it singular, lesson that you learned from your dad?
Ooh, I know mine, but I want to hear from Hassan.
Give me a second to think about
Okay,
it.
you know what?
I got two. My dad was a quotable
Actually,
man.
you want to hear something funny?
What's up?
I got the quotes written down.
Oh, you got all the quotes.
I have the three biggest ones.
I want to hear the ones you have written down.
Well, let's see. This is the one that, and I didn't realize it was an Omega Sci-Fi quote.
Oh, I didn't.
Until I
go for it.
Excuses are monuments to nothingness.
Yep.
And those who are good at them are usually good at nothing else. He would tell me that every time I would try to make an excuse, top line, bottom drawer, because I remember one time, I'll never forget this. I was playing football. I used to be really good at football when I was a kid. And one time I missed the ball. He's like, "Oh, how do you do in football today?" I was like, "Man, they threw the ball and the sun was in my eyes." And he's like, "Oh, so you can't catch." I was like, "Oh." So he would never allow me to make an excuse for anything. It's either you do it or you don't do it. And that sounds small, but learning not to BS people, to be direct, to be straightforward, and be like, you know what, I did not get this thing. Because after a while, you get tired of saying that. You get tired of making excuses. You're like, no, I'm just going to move forward.
Some people get tired of it.
Some people,
Some people. But whose fault is it?
Yeah.
It goes back to that. Like, if you're built that way,
that's fair.
You were groomed that way, or you were left alone to be that way, and no one told you or challenged you to be differently. Okay, so the two things that he said the most, and the thing that I really took from him post his departure, is so the two things he said the most. One is, so what are you going to do? Now he said that within context, and the other thing that he said is, are you finished? Period. And are you proud of yourself? Like it ran in the same line. So, so the first thing is, so what you're going to do. And the reason why he said it is because at around 18 years old, he said something to me that he's like, "Hey, you're grown now." Like it was literally that. Because his definition of what a man is, he had like some qualities and virtues of what a man should have done and blah, blah, blah. Right. So, and I think at this level now, I've definitely met all of those, good, bad, or indifferent. But he said it, and I remembered it, and so I'm on my pathway to trying to prove to him that I am that, And he says, and I'm talking to him, and I'm starting to ask him questions, and he's not answering them, and I'm like, so I'm asking you a direct question, and I'm starting to get frustrated with him, and he took off his glasses that day, and he says, "You're grown now." He says, "I could tell you what I would do, but you're going to take that as you should do that too." He said, "I'm not telling you what to do. I'm asking you, what are you going to do?" And when he said it, I said, okay, cool. So what this really means, so all the things that I've done before this, all the times I've had to call you from a payphone because I'm thinking it's something, I need a ride, or somebody's after me, or we jumped out a window and did all this other crazy stuff, because all this crazy stuff has happened. And I used to lean on him because I was he was my first best friend. Right. So you can go get your best friends, but they ain't going to ride with you like the man who's going to ride with you, So everybody can't go. Everybody can't go, and everyone doesn't go for you. You know what I mean? But I know he did. So I would get to him, and we had a best friend relationship for so long. I'm talking about even as a child, just so long. Like if he had to discipline me, cool. But we were never not that with each other, right? So when he told me that was kind of like him clipping the dog collar, so to speak. He's like, no, you got to run now. He said, so whatever you're going to do, that's cool. And if you need help, let me know. Yeah. But you got to decide. So, I mean, from 18 to 38, he would always be like, he left me in 38. So he would always be like, he'd listen to me. He'd smoke a cigarette. He'd listen to me. He'd nod his head. So what are you going to do? That was it. My conversations with him in terms of guidance and the need for him to try to give me some level of direction stopped-ish around 18. So then it became, I hear you, but I'd like to know what you think you're going to do. So that became a thing, right? The other thing, just to be quick about it,
take your time,
is that with school, like as a student, right? And not even college. I mean, just talking about like doing projects and stuff in elementary school even. It was always, okay, do your homework. Cool. Bring it to him to go check it, because he would always check my stuff. And he looks at it before he starts checking. He says, are you finished with this? Like, yeah. You proud of yourself? Yeah, I'll check it. You know what I mean? So like, just do that. But if that's a rhetorical question of making sure that you're able to stand next to what you did and say, no, that's mine. No, I did that.
Yeah.
A 90, 100, or a 65. I did that, right? Science fair projects, homeworks, assignments, whatever it was, right? And when I wasn't behaving as a student should, he would remind me, he said, you ain't being a student right now. You're not learning.
Yeah.
Man, I can do this in my sleep. I graduated with a very high GPA, top 10% in high school, and I didn't struggle very much with that because I felt like I had the acumen, but okay. Now, also statistically, I may have been a very high performer in a low-performing school. That could also be the case.
No.
But nonetheless,
As a black person?
black community, no.
That doesn't
What are the
happen.
odds of that? Although I'm very thankful for what the school offered, I do know that it wasn't high on the list, right?
Yep.
If you put me in the habitat of a different school district, maybe I wouldn't have graduated as high because the talent pool would be deeper. So be it. But nonetheless, if I'm resting on my laurels now, he's like, hey, did you do your homework? No, I don't need to do my homework. I do it in the morning. No, our system is that you do it at night.
Yeah.
You're not being a student right now. You comfortable with that failing grade? You comfortable with that 70? You're not being a student right now.
It was hard for my dad because I was like, that's 70. D's a degree. No, wait, C's a degree.
So my name starts with a D, right?
But you know, but that was the one of the things that my dad told me later in life when I was just like in my 20s. It was a little bit after
Yeah.
I was just off the rails, just completely distracted with life, right? And he set me down one day. What's that?
He was attracted with women.
You know, when you realize girls like you, man, it's a whole different.
He got his nose wide open. He said that to him all the time.
Well,
Nose open. Yeah,
my
he said that too.
My dad set me down, and he was asking me, he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I was inebriated at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And he was like, would you ever consider trade school? And I got offended. I thought I was too good for trade school. But if I could have rewound time, and I think I've had this conversation with everybody in this room, if I could have rewound time, and I'll say this to anybody that's on the line, there's absolutely nothing wrong with becoming a plumber, an electrician, any of those things, even if it's not your final destination, because it's a trade and you can functionally use it for the rest of your life. It's no different than having your own business, and you can fix stuff around your house.
You know, I used to fix cars at vans sporadically, right?
I don't see how that has anything to do with what I just
No.
said.
It kind of does.
Yeah. No.
I just like
Okay.
That's that small bearded energy.
I got you. That's the big brother.
wait.
energy.
SBE, small beard, a small beard energy.
So
energy.
I remember back when we used to have this car. It was a 1978 Lincoln Town Coupe, that big 460. We used to break down all the time, right? And I had to go to Vans all the time and wait for hours. And Van, who's a mechanic, he's teach me some stuff about cars and other stuff. And I started fixing cars over there. And my dad was like, "Yeah, keep doing that. That sounds great." He would encourage me, and I wish I kept that up. I learned a lot about cars, right? But that's not a bad position.
And, you know, one last thing. You know, one last thing that he also told me, it was about a couple of years before he passed away, that one of his biggest regrets is that he didn't map out a course for his life. That he was just going from job to job, and none of the jobs were succinct or,
Didn't correlate at all.
He was always just trying to keep his head above water. And he always would encourage me to do something that you talked about a lot. He's like, write it down.
Yep.
Write down what you want to do and do what you want to do. Just go do it.
So I'll tell you, that's the thing that I'm struggling with right now. I want to start a business.
Okay.
Right? I don't know what business is going to be.
Sure.
Right? Do I have the capital? Yeah. But I don't know what type of business to even start.
The better question is why? Why do you want a business?
Oh, tax benefits. What's that side? What's that deep side? We can talk about that later.
I have a theory about why to start things.
Okay.
Not to interrupt your flow.
No, go for it.
I think that if you're going to do something, and granted, when you initially start a business, there's going to be a lot of tax write-offs that come along with that. I'm going to reap the benefits of that as well. I get it. But is the business going to provide a service?
So the idea is, I'm sure you've heard this, having different income streams, right?
Sure.
So I have stocks that pay dividends, right? I have a bunch of other investments in the market that can sustain me in that sense. But if I get fired tomorrow, right, I'm be living off my savings and some of my investments.
Yeah.
I want another income stream, another that I can bring in.
So do you want to start a business or do you want to have multiple hustles?
I want something to, I'll be honest with you, I want to have something that I can, if I get hit by a bus and cannot work, that I still have money coming in.
So I had an interesting thought.
There's a difference there.
I had an interesting
There's
thought.
a difference, but it's still subliminally similar. But
And it plays into this as regards to intellectual curiosity and genius. Any of the biggest breakthroughs in medicine, science, have they been solely motivated by money, or have they been motivated by somebody's intellectual curiosity and passion for the subject?
The commercialization or the actual development?
Like most of the time.
The inception.
Because most of the time when
I
you
agree.
hear about a cure for something, the scientist or whoever it was, something
what can we do to
internal,
stop this
but
thing? What can we do to heal this thing?
Sometimes they were directly affected. Most times they were directly affected by it.
That's fair.
You can't be not that you can't, but you'll notice that you won't get as far in anything in life, when you're using something extrinsic to motivate you.
That's fair.
It has to be something intrinsic. Like if I
And that's the reason why you don't know what you want to do yet.
Well,
Right.
so
actually you do know.
yeah.
No. I say that hear me out. My favorite things that I like to do right now are the exact same things that I like to do when I was a kid.
Yep.
I like watching the Rockets.
Yep.
I like to rap.
Yep.
I like to draw, and I like making music. Those things haven't changed, but the only difference between then and now is I have accepted that I will continue to do these things whether profit is there or not, and speaking.
That's fair.
So you like tinkering with things, but you may not see at this moment that it can be profitable for you.
That's fair. Also, some of the things I like doing, I can't do in public without getting arrested.
You could.
Okay, you're gonna be a nasty man now. All right, that's fine. And actually, even if you went into that degree, that's why there's a paywall behind some of the things you like doing that you can't do in public. But ideally, I think when I said that the premise is still the same, is because if you're providing a service, let's go with Amazon.
Yeah.
I think that everybody understands the story of Amazon, that it started off in his garage and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it as in a hustler's mentality,
Okay.
I appreciate, I don't say praise, but I respect hustles.
Yeah.
I respect the hustler.
Yep.
But the businessman has a longer shelf life than the hustler.
Completely agree with that.
So if you're looking at it from the sense of, man, I want to do something to make some money, fair enough. If you look at the Amazon model, as far as that mindset going into what Jeff and company did, started off in his garage saying, oh, we're just selling books. Well, that sounds like a real good hustle. It really does. I'm not being smug about that at all. But the thing about it, though, is that it didn't stop there. And I am certain, because I haven't even looked at all the documentaries, but I just kind of know how this works. I'm certain that the thought of how could we get books to sell happened before the business plan, because if you had a business plan for it, you wouldn't have did it in your garage on a DOS, PC. So then you develop the business plan based on the need of expansion, because now you ain't hustling. Now you recognize that there's some revenue that can be built from this or garnered from it, and said, how can we make more?
That's interesting, because you know what? If you think about it, when you just think of the word hustler, you're thinking of somebody that's looking for short term.
Hustles have an end date.
Yeah.
Hustles are diets.
Yeah.
Diets you don't diet forever.
Yeah.
You diet until you reach the goal of
you
whatever
take
that
the
is.
off. Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool. If I wanted to lose the 10 pounds, I dieted until I lost the 10. Then you're going to gain it back. Or you're not.
That's fair. That's
But
fair.
it has a stopping date, because the diet itself can't be run long term. You're going to die.
Yeah.
The hustle, if you're selling work, if you're selling books, there's going to be a shortage of any one of these, and that will make your hustle die.
Hey, who was that model? What was that? Is it not Buffy the Body? She's in jail right now.
Okay, let's not talk about her.
No, I'm just thinking, because she was hustling.
I would like to know why, but I don't want to
Yeah,
know why
I
on
just-
camera.
I just-
So this is what I'll say, right? Is it's something that I always have an issue with when it comes to this hustling thing. When I was hungry, when I was poor, I hustled.
Sure.
Hustled, had 2-3 jobs, went to school, just
Yeah.
always doing something, right? 2 full-time jobs, had a part-time job, and was going to school.
Okay.
Had energy for days. Didn't have energy for days, but
You just maxed out.
just because I had to. I'm not sure I can do that right now, or I just don't want to. I haven't really figured that out yet.
I'm gonna say you can.
But here's the thing. Just like when you hire a hungry employee, I've gotten to the point and I'm trying to get myself out of that mentality as I'm fat. Shut up. I know what he's about to say, but my point is I'm not as hungry as I used to be because my needs have been met. Right?
Got you.
Right. I'm not having to worry about if my car breaks down. I can go buy a car today.
Yeah.
Cash. Not even.
That's why a lot of
not
music.
even
That's
a
why
brand
you
new car.
see
That's what I'm saying.
so many musicians. Their second albums are trash.
Exactly.
Because the hunger is been
But
pulled away.
I'm asking both y'all, right? Are y'all still hungry?
No.
Right.
No, but
Not
that's
the
the reason
same
why I'm
way.
not hustling. So like there you go.
That's what I'm saying. And it's when it comes to starting business, you're hustling more than I am, right? That initial jump,
Yeah.
you have to be hungry to make that jump. And I look
Let me
at,
argue that point.
Okay, I'm gonna say real quick. I look at investment properties, right? Look at buying a house and investing it and renting. I can get more money in the S&P 500
Then doing
long
that.
term than I can flipping houses or renting houses. Right?
Sure.
Less work.
Yeah. Yeah. But you also have educated yourself on that game, though. See, some people hadn't educated themselves on that game.
That's fair.
So now they're looking at the dirt, and I'm not calling the house dirt. I'm just saying that that's dirt
Yeah.
that you're building a house on instead of an electronic piece of property, right? So you have property in the electronic world that is you're paying dividends and cool. I understand that game too.
Yeah.
If you know both, then you have options. If
That's
you
right.
only know one, ain't no option.
But you know what you guys
Yeah,
are both
that's true.
saying? The reason why you're hesitant to do the other thing, well, flipping houses, is comfort zones. People, and this is something that I didn't find out until I started going down my own little journey. There's something beautiful on that next side, the opposite side of stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Sure.
But it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard to do when you're hungry. You'll do it out of necessity.
That's fair.
Once you
That
once
is
you
fair.
don't have the necessity, and you're doing it for personal growth, that's different because then you're having to dig because you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You're having to go to a different place that many of us haven't ever had to access, which is why your naturally born gifted athletes sometimes fizzle out, while the ones that had to get it, your Muggsy Bogses and your Spud Webbs, they've already tapped into that. They've had to tap into that, or they weren't even going to make it to that point.
Antonio Brown.
So,
I'm not going
so what I saw from my father that was never discussed, but I did take away from it all, was that he hustled.
Yep.
Now he did work,
Yep.
right? But he was retired military, so he had the military pension, right?
Yep.
That went down that way. He also worked for Hughes Tools Company up until about 85, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Because I remember at that point he had made a decision to say, well, I'd worked for this company since I came to Houston. I'd been in the military for 20 plus years. Yep. He's getting a check. He was really doing things because he could.
Yep.
He learned a trade. He was cutting grass. I was learning how to cut grass with him, lawn care service, but it really wasn't a lawn care service. He didn't have business cards. People just knew that they needed to call Rudy in order to cut the grass, right? He needed to install fans, paint houses. He worked with my best friend's dad in a construction service. He was the worker. He wasn't the foreman. He wasn't the supervisor. He was bilingual, and he knew everything in order to say that to the workers that the man was hiring. My daddy spoke 4 languages. When I talk about him, I speak about him in reverence because I never saw, and thankfully I didn't have to, but I never saw another example of a person who could do literally anything. I thought he was the fastest human being on earth, but I was 4 and he was running fast as me because he got longer legs. But you couldn't tell me he wasn't superhuman.
Right.
You know what I mean? He used to walk on his hands all the time.
Yeah.
Like he taught me to want to do this, this. And he fought, like he boxed and he wrestled. And I'm like, dude, and he raced cars. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm thankful for that. This is not this, because I understand that I grew up in a community in the 80s and early 80s, late 90s. That's our community, and a lot of people didn't have their fathers. Crack took that out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The Reaganomics took that away from us as a community.
Exactly.
So I have a fork in the road in terms of my community, and this is my father's story in terms of my years. My brother years are different, but my years are these, because I have a plus and a minus of being in the community, because effectively he's there where others aren't. You know, in other households. So I'm either going to be accepted or rejected. I'm either going to be envied or embraced. You know what I'm saying? Now, I was embraced because my block is the best block. So like with Southside Houston, Texas, Overdale Street, O Street or No Street, 5700 block. I got to say that. So
A-Leaf.
And I'm talking to A-Leaf. But nonetheless, the way we as a community grew was that my father was the father for everybody. So as I grew up with no brother and sister because they were older, I had to learn that the neighborhood children were my brother and sister. But he made me do that. We could isolate.
Yep.
But he's like, no, go outside and play. No, bring them inside. I got the Nintendo. Everybody plays Nintendo. I got the wrestlers. We all play wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like that. He did more externally, equally, externally than internally, right? He'd take all of us to school. He picked all of us up.
Oh, wow.
So my daddy was that daddy for them too.
Right.
Losing him, can't say lose. He had a long life. He died in his 80s. Letting him go, though, gave me a level of understanding about what it was to not just be a man in the household or a man to your child, but be a man of the community.
Yeah.
Say all that to say this. The odd jobs that he did in order to stay busy or keep a little bit of extra income coming into the house and you know, or for relevancy, that lesson taught me that I can do whatever I want because I want to. But when I do it, am I proud of it? Okay.
I like that.
Because if I'm not proud of it, then it's going to fizzle. Hey, we used to sell mixtapes, purses, all that. I started a DBA with absolutely no reason to have it, right? But it was me understanding how business could start, listening to the right or wrong people.
That's fair.
In order to get it done.
Yeah.
But those building blocks took me here. So respectfully, I don't count this as a hustle. I start this as an interest out of I miss talking to people because of COVID. And I used to travel the world, so I've been sitting in coffee shops doing the same thing. Nice. And I missed it.
Okay.
And I realized the value in it. So that's why I wanted to provide it.
That's fair. No, that's more than fair. And what I love about this is that your journey with your dad got you to where you're at.
Absolutely.
My journey with my dad got me to where I'm at.
Yes.
Same thing with you, right? When I was a kid, my dad asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I don't know. We had a whole conversation. And he said, hey, we're talking about, some engineering. I was talking about, he said, chemical engineers make cookies and Legos. And I was like, what?
It's true.
He's like, yeah. I mean, as a little fat kid, I used to love cookies. I played Legos all the time. And that stuck in my head all throughout college.
Yeah.
Like, those guys are the guys who make cookies and Legos, and I can be guy that make the cookies and Legos.
Yeah.
You know, when Daddy passed, I actually went into a full-blown panic. Not a panic attack, but I melted down. Like, I just, emotionally, I melted down because it was the first time in my life that I didn't have somebody to refer to in difficult moments.
Yep.
And then this is when this whole soul progression in me finding who I am and digging deep started to occur over the last few years. And then it finally hit me as I progressed with my daughter, as I progressed with my wife, that whole time he was teaching me for this very
He was getting you here.
moment, for the moment that, hey, he would even say it to some degree. I'm not always going to be here. You need to know this.
You got to know what to do.
And then you realize that you have to be that for other people, as you were saying. You have to be that for other people. That's why they gave you the information.
So two stories about that. One, father passed away. When you realize that you are now
you're
responsible for mama, right?
Yeah,
I'm responsible for mom. I had to take care of all sorts of stuff when he passed away because she could not handle it.
Sure. Yeah,
my
I
sister
relate.
couldn't handle it. You were,
I was doing my own.
Yeah, and so when you start parenting your parent, that is a whole interesting experience. My dad taught me that. He taught me how to handle that because he did it with grandma. And I remember I was sitting there, and this is when Black Panther came out. Do you remember the scene in Black Panther when he said, "What father it doesn't do a good job for teaching his kids about his death or something when he was in that.
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't watched the movie in a while.
There's a scene, I want y'all to go back and watch it.
I'm going to watch
this
it now.
movie. And I forgot, I was watching it with, I think, Emily at the time. And he was talking to his father in that dead place, whatever. And the father said, it's a poor father who doesn't teach his kids how to survive without him.
Mm. I dig it, though.
Yeah, this was immediately after Daddy's death.
Yeah.
And I just sat there, and I had tears.
Yeah.
Just tears.
Yeah.
I get choked up.
But
now.
the thing about it is, to have somebody of that caliber in your corner.
Yep.
Sure.
We all take it for granted.
Yep.
Yeah, until.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. Until you realize not only that when it's gone, but that's not something that everybody else had.
Yep.
Like
that's
you
the deal.
you had a lottery ticket
It's golden
in your
ticket.
house.
So this is something that I think maybe, and I'm a shout out to your dad on this one. I'm a shout out to Daddy on this one. Remember how you said that your dad was everybody's dad?
Yeah.
He had a friend. He had a friend, a guy named Chris, who I still, interesting guy, but whatever. He told him actually that he was jealous that we had our dad and wife. He said that he would come over just to be around our dad.
It's like that, bro.
Yeah.
Just to be around.
It's like that.
Just even Lewis, another gentleman.
Yeah,
He would always come around just to chop it up. Even we weren't even there.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
It's a deal.
It's a huge.
It's a deal.
thing.
And it's unfortunate that it's a deal, but it's a deal.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's crazy though, and I remember he passing. The first thing I thought, like he actually taught me. And this is gonna sound weird. Black men can show other black men love.
Yeah.
A real emotion.
And, yeah,
It doesn't make you less than.
You can have a hug. You can. That is not a problem. But how many other friends, people I know, who didn't have the father, who still think that's just weird.
This is weird. Yeah, because
it's
that's
modeling.
It's conditioning, it's
get to
grooming.
see it.
Yes.
Like it's that.
I still hate
you
that
don't.
word.
I get it. But my dad wasn't an "I love you" guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't a hug guy. When the new hug came out, because it really wasn't like that at first. In the 70s, he taught me the we call it the power slap. Like when you really loudly, bam. When you make the connection.
Yeah.
So I take that into my life, and they're like, "Man, this is an aggressive handshake." I'm like, softy. But but ideally, later, 80s, 90s, it became the pound and a hug.
Yeah.
East Coast probably brought that in, but now everyone embraced it. But it wasn't like that. I didn't grow up that way. That just wasn't what we did. Yeah. So when I started hugging my dad was after I realized he was sick. It was like that. I came back home in 2011, 12, something like that, and I was so happy to see him. I knew he was proud of me, but he gave me one, and it was the most awkward hug before I left, and it was the most awkward one when I came back home, and I was gone for almost like 3 seasons, right? So he gives me this thing, and he's like, "You'll be all right," and he hit me, and then he hugged me and slapped me on the back, and I'm like, this man don't know how to share emotion at all. But because I'm leaving my best friend, my family, I was married, I was leaving all this stuff. It was a lot on me, but he saw it and he's like, "You'll be all right." Bam, he hit me.
What's your favorite story from your dad?
Oh man,
A
story he told me or of him?
With you and your dad, or just whatever. Your favorite story that just because we might as well end this on a high note, right?
Yeah.
What's a
on a good one?
Good, bad, whatever. Just your favorite story.
It's gonna make me cry. So when I came back home, right? First time, because I was in Asia twice.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So when I came back home, I realized, and my daughter is okay. So I come back home, and sitting at the house, and I'm just thinking about all the things I did in Hong Kong. And I did a lot of stuff. It was really cool, and so my kid was like, we were watching fights because Glory Kickboxing, it just came
my
out.
stuff, man.
Okay,
I love it.
so I'm trying to timeline it so I don't crack up. So Glory Kickboxing just comes out, and it's like a big deal. But it's a big deal to me differently because I kickboxed. So I'm like, oh look, it's a new promotion in kickboxing. I still think I'm spry, And so baby is like, I never saw you fight, because she didn't, because all that is a long since past. I'm a 90s competitor, so like whatever, right? And so I realized that she hadn't she's like, I want to see you fight.
Is
Now,
that why you did Golden Gloves at one time?
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because of that conversation.
Okay.
Wow.
Then I realized that Dad never saw me box either. Now, he saw all the rest of the tournaments.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's, kickboxing or Taekwondo, right? So I'm like, he never saw that either. So now I'm just kind of like, if I do it one more time, let me explain to you what happens here. You got to do training camps. You got to do this. You got to do that, right? And she's like, okay, now she believes in me the same way I believed in him when I was her age, right? So, because I doing the best I can to raise this fully functional human being, right? I called up Dad. I said, hey, I think I'm going to jump in this tournament. Now, I'm going to say something that he told me that is more parallel back to what you said earlier about hunger.
Yeah.
Because we know something about the fighters. And so I tell him, I say, hey, I'm going to jump into this tournament. Because I'm over at the gym and we, getting mixing it up. And every once in a while, you just got to know that you still can. Yeah. And what better way to go do that than a sanctioned event where you can punch people in the face? Yeah. So I was like, all right, fine. I tell him, I say, hey, man, I drive over to the house and think about strapping up the gloves again. And he looked at me and he says, why? Mm-hmm. He didn't say, so what you going to do?
Yeah.
He said, why? I said, ooh, new question. I said, well, I kind of want to mix it up, man. I was overseas. I was training. I was practicing. We had sparring sessions, inter-club fights. It was really fun. Yeah. So I just kind of want to do it over here. And for him, because he did box, because he was welterweight champion as well, at Ramstein Air Force Base 65, right? He knows what this is like. So he went much further than me. Ooh, this is going to make me cry. So then he's like, he said, why? So you got the house, your 2-story house, that what the sheets you like 1,000, count sheets. You got 2 cars.
I like
you
how
got
you
the house.
changed your voice into Dad voice.
He was getting me, man. Yeah. And I'm like, why can't I just fight? He said, because you don't want to fight. This was a rocky conversation. You understand what I'm saying? The I'm gonna go fight Clubber Lane again thing. Yeah. And he's like, you don't want to fight. Yeah. He said, there's a difference between people who actually need to and those that want to. When your back's against the wall, you actually have some options. You're like, you don't need to do this shit. I'm getting punched in the face for what? I've already made it, right? So, hunger versus interest, right? So I said, all right, cool. I said, well, I'm going to do it. You down or what? Now, that's my guy. Yeah. He was like, if you're going to do it. He's like, sure. Like, all right, well, fine, whatever.
That movie with Hawkeye, he's like, whose car we taking?
Yeah. He's like, yeah, all right, cool. So, the day comes, right? Yeah. Get into the tournament. I got a thing that I always listen to certain music before I compete. Like, everything was working just fine. I'm getting my hands wrapped. It was an honor to have Termite Watkins wrap my hands. He's 3-time world champion as well. He respected me talking about my father because he's like, oh, your daddy used to box too. And I told him his accolades, and he's like, I need to meet your dad. Yeah. Because Termite was my hand man too, a mid man. So I was like, yeah, I need to meet your dad. So, they meet, they collaborate, they have the old guy talk, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the day comes and I'm like, I want you there. Because he was like, you just want to tell me after it's over with or what's up? I said, no, I want to see you there. I had him front row.
Nice.
Right. And what's really crazy about it is, and this is where my focal point as a fighter had changed, and I realized it, that's why I didn't do it anymore, is that, I realized it during the tournament. That's why I didn't do it anymore afterwards, is because as I'm doing it, I can see baby, daddy, and my wife. I can see them. Yeah. And if I'm thinking about what they think of me versus me trying not to get knocked out, I'm going to get real hurt. Yep. Yeah. These kids would take your head off for a T-shirt. Like, we came from this. So, I'm like, I think that this is my time. I think this is my time. Now I'm going to finish this up. Yeah. Now I'm going to let him know that he was in the fight. But I may not win this one. Right. And after I lost, because I lost by decision, after I lost, I said, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I ain't proud of myself because I didn't win, but I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. So then, I get back down. I ain't even busted up. It was a good fight. It was a good fight. But I get back down there and he looks at me. He said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." Yeah. He said, "You have fun?" I said, "Yeah, it was fun though." He said, "You'll probably do it again." and then he's like, "You hungry?" And I'm like, "I'm starving." He said, "Let's go." Went to Subway, got a foot long, talked to him for a little bit, took him back home, went on about the rest of my life. Oh. The deal is this. That's one of my fondest memories because it was an honor for me to perform in front of that man. Yes. As a man, not as a kid. Daddy not taking me to Taekwondo tournaments no more. We're not driving to Louisiana no more. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. I'm like, yo, I'm about to fight. Come watch me. I didn't really care. No, I didn't want to get knocked out, but I really didn't care that I didn't win, more than thinking about the fact that his life went 360 because he used to do this and he had me and I'm doing it in front of him. He gets to see a little him mixing it up again. And he said it, and he said it after he was sick and he's losing his faculties. And he talked to me and he says, it was pretty cool watching you fight. And then the trophy that I revered so much that he had, he gave it to me. He said, now you earn it.
I love it. I love that.
To me, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, you can't beat it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mainly because I showed him something that, quite honestly, now when we're volunteering to do stuff that people would probably try to avoid for the rest of their life. So for me, when I showed him that, and he was proud of me, because again, we're not in that proud of you, I love you hugging group. I knew he was, but it just wasn't, said. But when he said it, all right then, cool, thanks, I got you.
That's like a really special memory, man. I love it.
That's my favorite.
I say that because the entire time you were talking, I could picture it. I've never actually seen a picture of your dad. I would love to see a picture of your dad.
Yeah, I'll show you one.
But I just it shows the type of man that you became.
Sure, yeah.
Right, and how you were teaching your kids.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that story, man. That's I will tell you a funny story real quick.
Okay.
When I forgot, the story when I flew back like the Matrix. Do you remember that one? Where I hit the back wall?
Yeah. Me and him we got into a fight.
And I was yelling at my sister, yelling at him, right, my brother over here, and my dad was like, "You need to calm down."
Well, he came out and told us to stop fighting.
Yeah.
And I stopped, and you kept trying to mix it up with me.
You kept going.
And because I was watching it from a different angle, so I stopped. And you
I started the goddamn fight.
And so
as it happens,
you kept trying to mix it up, and my dad was like, "Hey man, stop!" And you poked your chest out.
My hands were open.
Right.
Took a step forward.
That was your mistake.
I did also start lifting weights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
my
you felt you
dad,
were strong.
I'll never forget. He looked over at me. I went like this, and then he proceeded to blow
Mollywop.
just knock you smooth across the room.
Not it like.
I mean, it was.
Here's the problem.
He flew.
It was fast.
Yeah.
It was powerful. I flew like maybe 5 feet.
Yeah,
hit the
it was.
back wall.
And he put weight into it because my dad was. You saw my dad.
Yeah.
He's
And
a big guy. Yeah.
I just remember. And here's the thing. I didn't feel that hit. What I felt was that
The wall.
hitting the wall.
The wall, yeah.
And I just sat there for a second, like.
Horrible idea. Like, ooh, I regret this decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I thought, and I came back. I remember and had been lifting weights. This is after that story, and I'm hitting like 315. I'm thinking I'm doing something. Right, that's my max. He's repping that. He's like, "Oh, you think?" So I was repping it out like it was nothing. I'm just like, he hadn't lifted weights in years, and I was just pissed. Like I can't fight him.
Daddy, and I call him Daddy, and people would make fun of me, especially girls that I would date. I don't care.
I don't care.
I never called him Dad. I never called him Donny. It was always Daddy because he was my daddy. And if you ever had a daddy, you would
know what I mean.
understand that.
You know what I mean.
He would always tell me, regardless of what was going on in my life, how proud he was of me. And I was like, I don't know what the hell you're seeing, old man. But then as I got older, and he was just telling me the very fact that you're able to be independent.
Yep.
Once again, I didn't think that was a big deal until you get older and you start still, you see some of your friends that are whatever age they are, they're still living at home, still struggling, still not getting ahead. And just something that small, your job as a parent that's all I want for my daughter is to be independent one day.
When I graduated UT, chemical engineering, whatever. Do you remember that day? All right. So I was hungover as all get out, right? I went out partying the night before. I had finally graduated. And, it was, I think, something special for seeing my entire family see me graduate.
Yeah, it's a big
as
deal.
college.
Yeah.
Because, I was the first one of the kids to graduate college. And it was long road, right? And he would just look, he was just beaming.
Yeah.
And he had that same look when my brother graduated nursing school, putting the pin on.
Yeah, he was so nervous that day because he thought he was going to mess up. I'm like, oh, how you think
like
you mess up?
And it
And
just
my sister
yeah,
graduated,
sister,
same thing.
and it's just he was just so proud.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time after I got my first job, and me and him were discussing my starting salary, and he was like, "Can I borrow some money?"
Yeah, let me borrow some money. Then when they ask you that, now you're like, oh, so that you how did we survive if you weren't making what I made? It's like, I thought we at least had some of this.
Yeah, I thought this was, and then but
Yeah.
yeah.
See that point, when Dad started asking you for money, was like, oh, okay, so you think I'm the man now? You know what I mean? But the moments of those prideful moments, living in those moments, that stuff's important. But I think it's also important that we had this conversation, because quite honestly, I didn't even lead this in. I should probably introduce y'all. We talked for about an hour and a half.
It's all good.
But these are. Listen, you can have guests on a podcast or you can have your friends. These are my friends. These are Donaldson and Darrius Betts. Donaldson, quite honestly, is responsible for, I believe, my first public speaking gig as a fitness professional.
Yeah,
Wait, what?
yeah.
As a fitness
I
professional.
never heard this story.
We gonna have to go back for that one.
okay.
But he definitely was like, hey man, you're as some of the audience may know, I have a long-standing history as a fitness professional, certified personal trainer, certified group instructor, kickboxing instructor. And I actually did these sports, so I come from a different thing. Train professionals, train soccer moms, all good. Nonetheless, though, he knew that I was getting busy in this direction because he's known me at other levels prior to this. So he's like, well, why don't you come speak about this particular subject? And I did, and so I do public speaking, and I'm rather confident. So to speak about that subject was not the problem, but he is responsible for the first one in that industry. So thank you, as always, for that, because I said it at your house, but I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
I really am.
I'm not small beard energy.
Correct. He would be proud of you if your beard connected. Just connect. Can you just connect it? Right. Wow. Darius as well. Like you guys. So the thing about it, what was so interesting about this is, when we decided to just jump into the studio, we were talking to him, and Donaldson says, hey, I want to talk about dads. It's like, it wouldn't be a bad idea that we talk about him, but this is no talking point situation. I just want to flow, because the joy of this is that anything I say is all facts and the stories remain consistent, because I don't have to make them up. Like this is, and neither would you. So this free-flowing conversation, I believe, was probably more important to me than y'all could probably appreciate, because I don't talk about him. This is the other funny thing that we can close out with. I don't talk about him to everyone, because my understanding of who he was to me is too impactful, and I don't know if everyone can appreciate that. But I think this is something in terms of our conversation that when you talk about your father and I talk about mine, now we're having a real conversation. It's just not me in a monologue saying my dad would, this is different.
Yeah.
And I believe it's important for our community.
Yes.
But the other thing that I remember is that my dad never wanted me to cry.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. Not in men can't be emotional.
I know what you're saying.
But the end story that I have, though, is that there was a parent appreciation day in high school, and everyone's in the auditorium and stuff like that. And then my dad was there. My mom wasn't there. Yeah. My dad was there. And I said, everything I do is to make you proud, right? I'm all emotional. Yeah. I'm like 16, 17, something like that. I think it was like right off of me getting my first degree black belt, because I got it pretty early.
Okay.
So, and I'm in the registry force. It was like, oh man, you're in South Korea registry? Look at this. So like, it was a thing, right? Yeah. And I'm telling him this because, all that we've accomplished with his support, and I'm crying, and he walks down from the audience.
Yeah.
And I think he's hugging me, but he's not. He comes up to me and he leans in. He says, hey man, let's get the fuck out of here.
Oh man, that's a good one.
And then we left.
I like that.
Oh man,
I like that.
Well, it's been a pleasure, man. Being on
it's
this.
been
This
a
was
blast.
great. This was really, it's definitely something that that was much needed. I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all, man. Hey, listen, this is Qualify the Podcast. My guests, Donaldson and Darrius Betts, professionals, but also my friends. Like and subscribe. You can find us on Google Podcasts, QLAFD. If you're Googling us, you can find us on all streaming platforms as well as YouTube. Donaldson has a podcast as well. Comparison is the thief of joy. Merchandise for sale as well. You can contact him where?
Instagram. Instagram is the best place to get me. Same name. Comparison is the thief of joy. I don't even care if you call me. 713-429-3665. Because I'll just block you if you get on my nerves.
Don't talk to me. Don't call me. Don't look me up. I don't want to talk to any of y'all.
That's that big beard energy.
Big beard energy, the most enigmatic man in the room today. All right, y'all, we're out.
Yeah, right, man.